Hello, everyone, and welcome. You have chosen the Scenic City Sports Podcast, your destination for local sports news, be it high school, be it professional, or whether you just want to listen to us ramble on about professional wrestling or old Seinfeld quotes or crazy movies that we all like. Welcome to the Scenic City Sports Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Gary Thacker Insurance over at 2382 Battlefield Parkway. You can reach them at 706-866-8283. Also, the Chattanooga Flower Market, 8016 East Brainerd Road, 423-899-2440. Phil's Primetime Pizza down in beautiful Chickamauga, Georgia, 122 Gordon Street. That's 706-375-4448. Our good friend Greg Payne, host of Restricted to the Dugout with Greg Payne and the Payne Mortgage Team. You can reach them at 423-645-9404 for all of your mortgage needs. And finally, Choo Choo Barbecue, who make it possible for us to bring you the scoreboard on Friday nights. The Choo Choo Barbecue of Chickamauga Scoreboard. You can reach them at 12960 U.S. Highway 27 at 706-375-7675. And as Ringo Rob likes to say, you don't know Q until you know Choo Choo. We also want to say a special thank you to Matthew Mays and the good friends and members of Jupiter Coyote, one of our favorite bands, and they provide the music for the show. Those guys have always been great to us, and we hope you guys will reach out and try to check out their music as well. So sit back and relax and hold on, and we'll see where we get to. And welcome everybody to this beautiful Thursday afternoon. It is 4:05 in the Eastern Time Zone. Scenic City Sports Podcast brought to you by the fine folks, Gary Thacker Insurance, all of our all-star sponsors, Rusty, Scott, and Rob, back here talking to you guys on a very pretty sunny afternoon with wind blowing in all directions and four-wheeling going on all over the county. Makes you want to
get the sticks out, right?
Makes you want to get the sticks out and get some traction on them. Get some traction on them wheels. But yeah, golf season.
Don't pull themselves.
Golf is approaching. We had a big weekend of playoff football this past weekend. We've got not very far off. Pitchers and catchers will be reporting. For Major League Baseball.
Which means the temperature's about to go back down to about 30.
Exactly. We still got hockey going on. High school baseball is starting to eke out here and there. You've got a little bit. Obviously, it's the time of year where Scotty is about to get really busy because
to earn his money.
Yeah, he is, because in the spring in North Georgia, I mean, you're talking about track, you're talking about baseball, you're talking about tennis, you're talking about golf.
That office job he had for the last few months.
Soccer, yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, you're talking about a lot of activity in a short amount of time.
Soccer games are in 11 days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the golf season starts February the 1st, is first day of official tryouts and practice.
I'm trying to chill for a couple weeks.
Yeah, you got to. I'd be remiss to say that Chicks and Sticks handed out what I would call a butt kicking last night of utmost proportion. And
which side of it was Chicks and Sticks?
We were on the winning side.
You were on the giving.
Side with the feet.
That might be the side with the feet. Might be it was literally one of the highest single night point totals that we've had in the
ever.
In the 6 years that we've been together as a team. It was our highest one or first or second.
So y'all peaked last night.
We scored 12 points last night. I mean, we won all 5 matches.
2 3-0 sweeps, a 2-0 victory, and a pair of 2-1s.
And pair of 2-1s. We had a really good shot last night of almost having a perfect game.
I don't understand half of that, but what if the losing team is listening to this right now while y'all are gloating?
Well,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
10.
Hang on.
I'll say
17, that 22. Okay, there's between the 5 of us that played last night, there were 22 total games, 22 total racks, and our team lost 4.
I'd get rid of those.
We'll say that the guys that we
won 18 of.
If y'all are that good, I'd get rid of the.
It was just our night last night. I mean,
it was.
We've had weeks where we
couldn't pay attention.
Yeah.
And the guys last night, obviously we're giving them a hard time because they're all our buddies. I mean, everybody over there knows everybody. Everybody has a good time. That's what it's all about. But
are y'all going to show loyalty and not share who the weakest link is?
Yes, we will. Well, I mean, I'll sit here and tell you the 2 best players that played last night are the 2 that went 2-1. As far as ranking wise. our highest ranking player and our second highest ranking player.
The top was pushed a little bit.
The top was pushed a little bit.
So and the bottom was.
But our number 2 guy, who's technically ranked the lowest, led off with a sweep. He had to win twice, 2 matches in a row. He did that. Rusty came back with a 2-1 victory. I came back with a 3-0 victory. Mike played, Mike got motivated and played really well.
Mm-hmm.
And,
did you have to cut weight to get down to a weight, or did you go up?
Did you have to cut weight?
I have cut some more weight, by the way. Thank you.
I'm just trying to see which weight class you were in on your sweep.
I'm no longer wrestling in the 210s, 215s. Oh. And then Lori was behind 2-0, and then Lori came back and won 3 straight. So yeah, it was a fun night. It was dark.
You think somebody would sponsor y'all since y'all are so good?
Well, I mean, I heard the Covington Insurance Group was looking at ways
to sponsor a bunch of
to sponsor some pool players.
We got room on those sleeves.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying we could put a picture of Ringo Rob with the double thumbs. I mean, great night last night, but as a Cowboys fan, I'm not going to sit here and not talk about what a horrible night. And I know they've beat it to death probably on national news, but you literally, those of you out there that watch sports, I mean, in real time, we may have watched a young man just, number one, lose his confidence. Yeah. And we may have realistically watched the end of Brett Maher as a professional kicker in the NFL. I mean, it likens back to, Scott and I were talking about last night. Chuck Knobloch, Steve Sachs, Dale Murphy. I mean, Dale Murphy couldn't make the throw from home to second was the reason that he wasn't a catcher. I mean, you've over the years, Ian Baker Finch is one that comes to mind. I mean, a man that was a British Open champion and got to the point where he couldn't go out there on tour and break 80, but shoot 65 with his buddies out playing.
It's a mental thing.
It is a mental thing, and people don't realize it.
And trying to throw the ball from second to first, and if you miss a couple times, and all of a sudden it gets in your head, you can't do it anymore.
And that's the other.
Or the
yips, the shanks, the whatever and that's the thing too. You look at what Maher did the other night. It's not like he had one what I would consider bad kick. I mean, he had the one he caught it low. It was boomeranging. It went wide left. But the other 3 kicks were literally inches away from being good. He just pushed them a little bit. It wasn't like they were horrible kicks. But the problem is it just compounds. And all Cowboys fans probably, and because I know I was, me and Lulu watched the game, and both of us were sitting there thinking, Lord, please, do not let this game go down to a field goal, because we're not going to win if it does. And at the same time, people also need to remember, an extra point's not a chip shot anymore. 5 years ago,
it was 33-yard attempt with people coming at you in weather and with pressure and everything, and everybody, all you got to do is make a kick. Well, go out there and make one.
Yeah. 5 years ago, that ball was
easy it is.
5 years ago, that ball was spotted on the 3.
Yeah. With a ball that isn't broken in.
Yeah. And now that ball is spotted on the 25. Or on the 15, I'm sorry. So it is a 25. Yeah, it's 25, so it's 32 yards.
Broken in. They use particular footballs.
Those kicking balls are hard as rocks.
Kicking balls are like kicking the block of cement.
All right.
They're rarely. I mean, they try to squeeze them down a little bit, before the game starts. But how much? So
those balls are designated before the game.
They have a K on them.
Yeah. Okay.
But the kickers want them like that though, because they're so brand new. They're good and they're good and stiff, and they've got the texture on the outside, so you can get toe on the ball much easier. But that was hard to watch. I mean, obviously as a fan of that team, it was hard to watch. But I mean, just as a sports fan,
it's kind of late in the year to go out and find somebody perfect in your mind. I mean, you said they signed the Patriots' second string?
Well, our crack reporter, the younger Parkhill, who is a massive sports fan now, has been combing the waiver wire and found out that the Cowboys picked up the backup kicker for the Patriots. He was the kicker on the Patriots practice squad.
And their season was over.
And their season was over, so they have picked him up. I'm assuming that he will be. I'm gonna guess probably they'll carry one less. They'll carry one less skill position, or they'll carry one less special teamer or something like that, and he'll be on the sideline just in case.
Just in case we start out with 6-0.
Or if he goes out there this week and just blows it out of the water in practice, Mr. Maher may find himself on another team. Because and then
this is third.
It's his
with the Cowboys?
It's his third year with the Cowboys. He was they signed him as a rookie because they got rid of who was the last one they had? The last one they had for a while. That's one thing about the Cowboys. When they find a good kicker, they hang on to him. I mean, the last few they've had for numerous years. Billy Cundiff they had for quite some time. Nick Folk they had for quite some time. Most all of them they had for a while.
Well,
including Raphael Septien.
Raphael Septien, yeah.
I think I saw this. Of course, the Cowboys and the Niners is something we used to see a lot. But I think these are the two most attempts with each other's team to play in the playoffs. Is the Cowboys and Niners.
As a,
I think there's been nobody else has played.
I was going to say as a playoff matchup. I mean,
I wouldn't doubt it.
No, because they've played in 4. No, let's see, 1, 2, 3.
Well, in some of the most iconic games
4.
that were played in playoff history, where we think about the Niners and Cowboys.
Well, I mean,
matchups.
I'm thinking 4 NFC championships I can think of right off the top of my head.
Those Raiders-Steelers matchups in playoffs.
They met each other at least. I think this is the 7th or 8th meeting. I think, just off the top of my head. Now I'm not.
I'm thinking they said the 11th.
Wow.
Now that may be not true. I might be throwing out a number.
I don't know that it's not. I mean.
But we can remember back in both of them's heyday that
I mean, the beginning of the San Francisco dynasty in the NFC was the ending of the Cowboys dynasty in the NFC. In 1981, the catch, Dwight Clark over the top of Everson Walls. Did you look it up, Scott?
I'm trying.
Okay. Because I can think of that NFC championship. They played each other in 90.
I just found a story that was actually printed yesterday.
They played each other in 92, 93, 94. Didn't play in 95.
Okay, so here it is.
Okay.
When the Cowboys and Niners meet in the divisional round on Sunday evening, by the way, this is sportscasting.com, it will mark the 9th postseason battle between the two legendary franchises. And while that may not seem like a ton, it actually ties the record for the most NFL playoff games between two teams in the Super Bowl era.
Does it say who the other is? I would think Raiders-Steelers, maybe.
Raiders-Steelers is one you think about.
Maybe
Green Bay and somebody.
Okay, so I'll give you guys a hint.
Okay.
It's a 3-way tie.
3-way tie.
Dallas and 49ers.
Yeah.
Dallas and another franchise, and San Francisco and another franchise.
Well, I would think probably Dallas and the Packers.
8 times, but that's not.
So that's not it. Okay. Then and San Francisco. Well, San Francisco and the Packers have played each other numerous times.
That's one of them.
Dallas, Washington.
Mm-mm.
No.
This one caught me off guard.
Okay. Well, if it's caught you off guard, then that means it's something kind of out there.
NFC, right?
This is NFC playoff, so that would probably be
Rams and Vikings.
No, but you're close.
Rams and Bears.
No, but you're close.
Bears and
it's not the Cardinals.
Bears and Vikings.
Now you're cold.
No, let me think. It's not.
What a silly game
not the Falcons. It's not the Niners.
I basically told you guys the answer already.
You have. Oh, well, no. Rusty shot down the Packers and Cowboys.
No, he said it's the Cowboys and somebody.
Cowboys and somebody.
Rams.
Yes.
Is Cowboys Rams?
Cowboys Rams.
Really? Well, they did. Well, yeah, they did play.
Yeah. Rams had periods of time, not so much. I mean, they
through
were
the 70s. Yeah, I was going to say through the 70s. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, the Ferragamo Rams, and then I think they played Everett Rams. I don't think they ever met the Vermeil Rams in the playoffs or the what was the mad scientist's name? Martz. I don't think his Rams, but they did play the Rams 3 or 4. My crack security team up there. They did play the Rams 4 years ago, because that year that was Dak's like second year in the playoffs, I think, or second year in the league. They played them that year. I know that.
Okay, so Dallas and San Fran.
You got Dallas and San Fran. You got. I mean, I think the game.
San Fran and Green Bay and Dallas and the Rams.
And the Dallas and the Rams. Well, then you look. I mean, look at the matchups that we've got this weekend. If you are a television executive, you could not have asked for better matchups. You got the Philly-New York matchup, which that's got the whole Northeast.
Hate
versus hate. You got
heel versus heel.
You got the Cowboys versus the Niners. Again, one of the greatest matchups ever.
Yes.
You've got the Bills and the Bengals, two of the hottest young quarterbacks in the NFL and two of the best teams in the NFL.
Let's go back to the wrestling matchups. Heel versus heel with Philly and New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
Face versus face.
I would say face, Cowboys, Niners.
And what was?
Well, I mean, Bills, Bengals. That's probably face as well. And then you've got the Chiefs and the Jaguars. That's an underballot.
That's Kevin Owens showing up on Raw to knock out John Cena.
I think so too. I think that's your babyface rookie versus your grizzled old heel veteran.
Okay.
Is this the best week of football? I always like to say it was the championship weekend, but this might be the best weekend of football.
Well, I mean, look at these matchups.
Yeah. Saturday, just to run down the schedule, Saturday, 4:30 p.m. is Jaguars-Chiefs, followed at 8:15 by Giants and Eagles. Then on Sunday, 3 o'clock, Bengals-Bills, and how soon we forget these two teams were
on the field a few weeks ago.
We're destined for what was shaping up to be a great
Coach
game.
Coach Mark Mariakis was in the house that night.
I know a couple people were in the house that night.
Okay.
And then he
had a suite, so he knows somebody.
Yeah. I don't know who he would know in the Cincinnati organization. And then Sunday, 6:30, Cowboys, 49ers out there on the West Coast. Of course, the conference championship games will be the following weekend, and then a 2-week break until the Super Bowl. But, man, you got 4 games. I'm hoping I'm going to get to see 2 of them in their entirety. I might get to see part of the one Saturday night, but I'll have to probably listen to one of them coming back from where I'm going to be on Saturday. But man, just take them right down the order. Who you like? Jacksonville, Kansas City, Kansas City.
That's Kansas City. I mean.
I like Jacksonville, but I think Kansas City.
Yeah, he's asking the winner
wins the game. I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, Kansas City. What's next?
You like Kansas City? I like Kansas City too. I think this might be a little closer than people might expect, but it depends how much Jacksonville's got left in the emotional tank after that comeback the other night.
Well, yeah. and does Kansas City show any rust from sitting off a week?
Well, that's always always a problem.
But once they find their gear, they usually put their foot down.
Next game is Giants and Eagles.
Well, two teams
that
don't like either one of them. But
how healthy is Tua?
Yeah, well,
I mean Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and he is needed, but it's kind of hard for me to think that the team that's been the best all year is ready to lay down. So I'm going to say Philadelphia.
I wouldn't think so either. I'm just glad my prediction 5 years ago that Daniel Jones is going to be a good quarterback in this league, and I got laughed at.
You went there?
Yeah. I said it when he got drafted.
Did you do it in front of us? Did we laugh at you?
I believe I did.
You think maybe
I don't know if you guys laughed at me.
I would not have laughed at you on that because I believe that
I've
always thought that Daniel Jones.
Well, but he don't remember who was around.
Cutcliffe handpicked this.
Yes.
I watched the kid play the other day, and he's definitely a keeper. And I'll have to agree that you get him some more true weapons, then that's where his fate lies.
And now he's got some coaches that know what they're doing. He's been with bad coaches for 4 years too.
So Scott,
I like the Eagles in a close one.
If I asked you what 2 things do you need to be able to do well to win in the playoffs, your answer would be
run the football, stop the run.
That is right.
Mr. Titan.
The New York Giants can run the football, and they can stop the run as well. They are a cold weather team, and they are riding Big Mo right now. And Philly limped into the end of the season. Now,
here comes the Cowboy fan.
I know I'm an Eagles hater.
Either one of them.
Oh yeah, if there was a way for if the stadium could just swallow both teams up, the world would be a better place. But
Washington shows up out of nowhere.
None of us don't hit
with a chair.
Like Philadelphia. I don't like Philadelphia.
But I
think they've been strong all year. Although they've got a nick in their armor.
I'll buck the system on this one and take the Giants.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I just look, man.
I wouldn't be surprised.
In that division, it is hard to beat anybody in that division three times in the same season.
That is true. That is true. But even the big guys last week talked about, look at that upset in Minnesota and New York. That didn't catch him by off guard.
That's not an upset.
But that wasn't the same defense they're going to go against this year.
I'm telling you right now, the best division in the NFC right now is the NFC East.
You know what? And just a few years ago, we thought it was the opposite.
Thought it was the opposite.
It's had turn.
I'm telling you,
it's the NFL
Central.
South.
The South is the worst right now.
Years ago, it was the best.
Well, and that NFC Central is nowhere near as good as it was in years past. It's been declining for quite some time. The two best divisions on that side are the NFC West and the NFC East, which is, realistically, classically, those were always the two best divisions in the NFC going back years and years and years. So, yeah, obviously, yes, I'm a Cowboys fan, but I'll take the Giants.
The G-man.
Let me tell you this much, man.
I'm taking the guys that beat up
I'd take Daniel Jones tomorrow with a star. I mean, I like Dak and everything, but I'd take Jones tomorrow.
At the bottom of their
Philly. No, they still have it.
No, they still got
absolutely they do.
I think the Eagles will win. I really don't care who wins this one. I'm not really a big fan of either team. I think the Eagles will win it because I think they're playing at home. I would not be surprised if the Giants won. So my pick is Washington comes running out of the locker room, cashes in the Money in the Bank briefcase,
and points at who?
Hits both of them over and pins them both, and Washington gets the win, moves on. I think the Eagles will win. No more than a touchdown.
I think the game would be close. I mean,
no more than a touchdown.
I mean, when you don't know your status of your quarterback, you got to wonder.
Here's the game I'm looking. Bills Bengals
in
Buffalo.
And you know what? And they both got so many reasons to pick each other as wins. I want to say Bills because they're home, but I honestly think Bengals are better. But that Bills at home situation is what's bothered me, and because of that, I'm gonna say Bills.
Are we watching the Brady Manning matchup for this generation and those two young quarterbacks?
Or you can't take out
Josh Allen and Joe Shiesty?
But you can't take out Kansas City's.
I'm saying. I mean, you've
playing that big game.
And then you think about it. Mac Jones ain't a bad quarterback up there in New England. I mean, there's some good quarterbacks on that side of the bracket, but I think. I'm with y'all. I think that's going to be the game of the weekend. I mean, I'm really surprised that that's not the Sunday night game. I get why the Sunday night game is what it is because it's Cowboys 49ers. I mean, that's literally
it's in California.
It's storied. But I mean, you could have played it. You could have made that the Saturday night game. I mean, that
you meant Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean
any thoughts of not playing a game like that in Buffalo, New York at night because of temperature being
God, you imagine how
worse.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that probably had something to do with it too. I mean, God, it would probably be another 30 degrees lower because it's dark.
I remember a Cincinnati playoff game in 1981 when the wind chill was minus 59.
Yep,
I remember that.
Ken Anderson and
beat San Diego.
Yeah,
my Chargers at the time.
Dan Fouts
and think
Kellen Senior
on that turf in that day when it was just little.
Well, and that turf,
that
turf was like falling on this concrete floor that we're standing on.
Rolf Benershka.
Free
Wheel of Fortune, Rolf Benershka.
Golly. And then
who are you picking?
I mean, Man,
I'm gonna say Bills. That's coming
say
from Ringo
Bills.
Rub.
I
Because they're home, I think it's the biggest reason.
to me, I think that game would have been a toss-up a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I think after the whole DeMar Hamlin situation and everything, I think the Bills have something to rally around. They got a cause, and the last thing you want is to give a good team a cause. And I think they've been one of the best teams in the league all year long.
And I heard this today, and this ain't a little thing. If I'm not mistaken, 3 starting offensive linemen are out for the Bills, and when that's a lot. That's a lot.
The Bengals' offensive line.
Yeah, I mean the Bengals' offensive
has
line
not been good.
But there's 3 of them out.
Yeah, they have not been good. Last year, they basically went out and got a whole new line in free agency, and they're still not that good. But in the playoffs, you have to run the football.
Yes.
And the Bengals can run the football. And they've got so many weapons in the passing game and a quarterback that doesn't make mistakes. And they have a defense that's complete. I don't think Buffalo has got a complete defense. I think Cincinnati is the most complete team in the AFC. I think they go up to Buffalo and they get one.
And this may sound crazy, but somebody in this room tried out to be the Cowboys kicker this week.
Yeah, seriously.
And it wasn't me.
We could have. That's for dang sure.
All right. So last but not least is Cowboys.
The storied
Niners.
rivalry, the Cowboys Niners. I mean,
Let me start with.
Go ahead, man.
I think when both teams play their best ball, they're very, very good. And we watched Dallas minus their kicker play very, very good last week. What I have not seen Dallas do much this year is play 2 of those games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in San Francisco. They have played well down the stretch. And anytime I think a team limps into the playoffs, don't expect anything to happen. I talk about that in baseball as well. But I think the best team over the last few months has been San Francisco. What concerns me a little bit is but he's doing the job. They've got a third string quarterback in there, doing well.
Mm-hmm.
But because the Cowboys, Rusty, have let us down so many times.
Oh, we all expect it.
I'm gonna pick San Francisco.
I will say that from a strategic standpoint, if I'm the Cowboys, I'm going to throw everything at Brock Purdy but the kitchen sink. I'm going to move Micah Parsons all over that field, and I'm going to have that kid's head on a swivel wondering from what direction he's going to be coming on that particular play. And I really think that the difference in that game is going to be the Dallas defense. I think these 2 offenses are pretty evenly matched up, and honestly, I think these might be the 2 most balanced teams when both are playing well on this side. And I think, Dallas needed a victory like what they got on Sunday night, minus the kicking situation. Dak Prescott didn't do anything wrong that night, for the most part. The defense played unbelievable that night. But this ain't Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a very good San Francisco team. But like you said, third string quarterback, that's going to be a big X factor. I mean, I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Cowboys win it. I think they go out there and I think they win it. I think they won't pay back for last year's playoff loss to the Niners. But realistically, this one goes either way. These are 2 really good football teams when they're giving it everything they got.
I agree. I think they're both talented. I just don't think
Scotty?
The Cowboys like to do it 2 weeks in a row.
I'm going to follow what you said. The Cowboys have not been very consistent this year.
Nope.
San Francisco has won 11 consecutive games. 11. Brock Purdy is Mr. Irrelevant. Last player picked in the draft. But it's not like we haven't seen this before.
I was about to ask. We've seen this story.
Jeff Hostetler. Anybody? I mean, we go down. There has been famous quarterbacks that have come out of nowhere.
Tom Brady.
That have led their team to Super Bowls. San Francisco is the perfect place for this young man because they're clicking on all cylinders, both sides of the ball. He's not making mistakes. They got a running game. They got receivers.
Got a real good team around
They
him.
got a tight end. They're the most complete team. I said about Cincinnati in the AFC. I think they're the most complete team in the NFC. And they're playing at home. And they're hot right now. And, yeah, it may come to an end. But I'm riding the hot hand. My pick in the Super Bowl before it started was Cincinnati versus San Francisco. I'm sticking with it. I think the Niners.
Well, and there's another thing too. Like there's another aspect to it. You know, fate, destiny, whatever you want to call it. You know, we talked about that national championship game a couple weeks ago. That if there wasn't somebody from Disney thinking about telling Stetson Bennett's story, there ought to be. Well, Brock Purdy's another example of that. I mean, literally the last guy drafted in the draft, that's 9 out of 10 times, that's a throwaway pick. Somebody picked somebody's nephew or something because they're in, they want him to say that he was drafted.
And that made me think about that when we talked. When B.J. Coleman was drafted, wasn't he real close to that number?
He was down the bottom of the 7th round.
So, yeah, it was 7th round.
Close. And by the way, I saw BC the other night and his lovely bride of many years. And we talked some old time sports.
I just pulled this up because I'm just out of curiosity. Oh, Ryan Gosling wrote this story. Probably not the Ryan Gosling, but
you
Ryan
never
Gosling
know.
Just as well. The history of Mr. Irrelevant in the NFL draft. 1979, the Rams intentionally passed on the penultimate selection.
They didn't want that. They said we'll just hold ours till next year.
I thought this was going to have a list pull up. Now it's redirecting me to another side. I'm hoping.
But in what year did you say?
1976.
In 1976, Mr. Irrelevant would have been like an 11th or 12th round draft pick.
In the early '80s, they went to the
finally
12th
started.
round. So
yeah, they went all the way. Yeah, that would have been like a 12th round draft
that
choice.
was somebody from Boynton.
That would have been like pick number 300 and something.
Son, did you play ball?
Yeah, did you play?
I'm going to start.
Prior to the draft being reduced to 7 rounds in '94, Mr. Irrelevant also often struggled to make NFL rosters. If you don't know what we're talking, Mr. Irrelevant is the last player picked in the draft. In the past 45 years, a handful of players have succeeded after being the final pick. And we're talking about Brock Purdy. He's the most recent one. Here's some other. Ryan Suckup.
Yeah.
Pretty successful kicker. Jim Finn. Remember the fullback. Played with the Giants.
Yep.
Marty Moore, linebacker. Not too bad. He was on the Patriots roster, lost to Green Bay in Super Bowl 31. Just looking through if any names. John Tuggle. Anybody remember a running back named John Tuggle?
No, I don't remember that one.
Randy Essington.
I remember him.
Yep. Everett Ross.
I remember him.
With Mr. Irrelevant. Demetrius Davis. Got to be the best Mr. Irrelevant of all time. From 1991, New York Giants select quarterback Larry Wanke.
Larry Wanke.
More recent times, there has been Ronnie Makeda. I remember that guy.
Yeah.
Jim Finn.
The crazy part about the title of Mr. Irrelevant, though, is there have been way more undrafted free agents over the years that have gone on to pretty impressive careers as opposed to the Mr. Irrelevance of the world.
I'm looking at Lonnie Ballentine, I think. Was pretty good. Chad Kelly. Tay Crowder.
Tay Crowder.
Year before was Grant Stewart. Linebacker with Tampa, and this year it's Brock Purdy. So you've fallen to the right team.
Positioning is everything.
Yeah.
No matter what round you are chosen in, positioning is everything.
Well, absolutely. You go back to some of the people that Well, John Elway passed on who was going to draft him.
Well,
Eli Manning and family said no Chargers, no.
Dak Prescott, anybody? He falls to the 4th round, picked up by the Cowboys, and a year later he's the starting quarterback in the playoffs. I mean,
and again, what preceded that was our boy getting hurt.
Yeah, and again, another great story right there. Undrafted free agent Tony Romo goes to the Cowboys because current offense coordinator Sean Payton had Eastern Illinois ties to him. I mean, the NFL, if you can't, as a sports fan, and I know there's a lot of people out there that hate this guy and they hate that guy and they hate this team and they hate that team, and we're all the same because we're all sports fans. But if you can't look at the NFL and appreciate some of the human stories within all of this of guys that just, well, that guy ain't going to be nothing. I mean, how many guys I can think of guys that were at best ho-hum college players, and they get to the pros and just tear it up.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, Brady falls in that category.
Well, or their 2nd or 3rd round draft choice, because Arian Foster.
BJ was 11th from the end.
11th from the end. When Arian Foster was drafted by the Texans, what was he, 6th round pick, 7th round pick, something like that? He wasn't a high pick.
I don't remember him being that high of a pick.
No, I thought he was like a 4th or 5th round pick or something like. Because I remember a lot of SEC fans were like, "Well, my God,
the running back,
the one that went to Houston and was a dadgum
had a better,
awesome,
probably had a better.
Was he 2nd?
College
undrafted?
That's right. Okay, I was going to say I knew he was low, but I couldn't remember if he was. And I mean, look what he turned out to be.
I think with some injuries.
He was banged up. He was banged up in Tennessee, and then I guess finally
got healthy.
Yeah,
he was behind. Yeah, he was behind Gerald Riggs and Cedric Houston on the depth chart.
And look at what he turned out to be in Houston. He made a lot of money after that first couple of years in Houston. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, I think he may have led the league in rushing.
He did a couple times. You look at these guys, and it just goes to show that sports is an inexact science, because in the modern era, when you want to be able to look at all the stats, like baseball, for instance, you want to look at the WAR, and you want to look at their on base percentage, and you want to look at all these different, you can do sabermetrics and all that mess. There ain't a sabermetric out there for heart and for desire and for the penchant for hard work. And some of those guys, when they get that chance, maybe they come in as a low draft pick, they come in as an undrafted free agent, but that guy walks in there and works his ever-loving behind off, and he shows that he belongs there. I mean, Romo's a good example of that. Romo manages to hold on as a Cowboy as the 3rd-string quarterback, and the only reason he still was a Cowboy was because Tony Banks got carried out of training camp because of a drug violation.
8 years. Foster was in the league for 8 years, undrafted, 2-time first-team All-Pro Bowl, second-team Pro Bowl.
That's a good example there. That's a really good example.
Yeah.
Twice led the league in touchdowns and once led the league in yards.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy right there that's buried on the depth chart at Tennessee. I mean, we knew he was a decent player. Everybody did. But the guy gets an opportunity, and he goes, "Hey, watch this."
Well, he ended up being a starter at Tennessee, but then he I know he pulled a hamstring. He couldn't participate in the combine, and there were some questions. He fumbles too much, and he couldn't block that well in the passing game, and that he was a little too small, and whatever.
And where was Kamara drafted? Because again, he didn't get to do enough to show his skills in college.
I would say he was a 3rd round.
I was going to say, I was thinking he was 3rd or 4th round.
He must have done good in the combines and stuff, turn people's head, because he didn't get it. Nobody let him play enough in college.
Well, I still believe in my heart of hearts.
Yeah, 3rd round draft pick.
I still believe in my heart of hearts that had he been given a chance at the time when he comes straight out of college, that a Darius Bowman would have been a good NFL player.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, Kamara's, I understand he goes to Bama, and they're 5-6 deep on running backs, and he guys that are going to win Heisman's in front of him. But when he came to Tennessee for Butch Jones and that bunch to sit him on the bench like that, like we don't have anything, that's ridiculous. A program that's looking for kids to put out there, and he's just sitting him on the bench.
He must have only had like a 3-star heart or something. They couldn't take that risk.
He just didn't bring enough bricks.
He's couple of hearts, couple of stars shy.
He should have been starting ahead of Jalen Hurt.
Oh, absolutely. But they waited on Jalen Hurt to quit before they let him play.
Yeah. But I remember seeing Alvin Kamara when he was at Norcross High School. The day Ridgeland played for the state championship,
they played afterwards.
They played the game afterwards.
Okay, so we walked by him.
Yes, we were down there in the tunnel, and that's what we had heard about. Alvin Kamara.
And what a big team they had.
Oh God!
Well, they had the kid that went to Georgia and played defensive end.
Yeah,
and now I think he's in the pros.
Lorenzo Carter.
Yeah,
is that what it was?
Yeah.
That team came. We were down at the bottom of the Georgia Dome, walking back towards the locker room, and Norcross is passing us.
I was there, Scott.
Yeah, and we're just like.
And they made Ridgeland look like a 1A football team.
And Ridgeland had like 300-pounders on that line.
They had. That
was one of the biggest high school teams I've ever seen.
They had 25 kids that were 6'3" or better, and they had 10 that were 6'5" or better.
They were enormous. I'm not exaggerating.
And I did not know that Kamara's on that team.
Yes.
Wow.
Because I kept looking for him. Where's number 5? Where's number 5? Where's number 5? And then I finally saw him, and I'm like, well, he doesn't look that big. And then I got up a little bit closer, and I'm like, oh, this guy is jacked.
I didn't realize that.
This guy was jacked.
Ridgeland goes in in the 4A then?
That was 4A.
And they were 6A.
That was the highest classification.
And you'd never dreamed that those two schools were that close in classifications, how big they were.
Just goes to show you how much different they grow them in those parts of Georgia.
Well, I remember telling Nathan or Scott or somebody, I said, just in soft count, there's 25 plus kids 6'3" or better, and there's another 10 or 12 that are 6'5" or better.
They were huge. They were absolutely huge.
I mean, I go back to the first, before I started doing this with you guys. Obviously I remember watching, I always watched the football games when I was in high school, blah, 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 around this area. But, I wasn't seeing anything like that. And I remember the first time I ever paid attention to the fact that high school football and everywhere else in Georgia is not what it is up here was in 2000 when Dalton made the state championship game against Statesboro. And that game was televised on Georgia Public TV because a friend of mine had told. He's like, dude, you gotta watch that. You got to see that team from Statesboro.
Let's give Georgia Public TV the props they do.
They do an absolutely amazing job.
Stuff. Tennessee needs to follow suit.
But that Statesboro team, and Scott could back me up with the stats. But and matter of fact, I think I remember you telling me the stats at one time. There was a really ridiculously stupid number. It was like in 4 playoff matchups, they only threw the ball a minuscule amount of times. It was like less than 25 times or something.
Statesboro?
Yeah. It was like less than 25 times because they ran basically the triple option, and they had 2 running backs at the time that were committed. Both were committed to SEC schools, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it was that 2001 team.
Yeah. And but I remember seeing, because that Dalton team was the best team Dalton had in years.
Tory Love
was on that team, yeah. And it looked like grown men playing middle schoolers. And those Dalton kids were big kids. But those offensive linemen and those running backs were just, the way Jahmyr Gibbs looked, when you put him on the field against the kids up here, take him, for instance, when he was at Dalton.
Well, he ran for 7 touchdowns and 400 yards
against Ringo.
Against Ringo.
In those first 2 weeks that season, he had 11 touchdowns in
fourth quarter.
He had 11 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks that season.
Yeah.
When you look at him,
and that's a kid that's not only going to play on Saturday, he's going to play on Sunday. And when that kid particularly gets in the environment that when we talk about North Georgia sometimes, it's real identifiable.
Well, Gerald Riggs as a high schooler.
I said that about Von Bell. I said when people said he's automatic Saturday, I said he's automatic Sunday.
Yes,
He's
I mean
that good.
you can see it. I mean, Scott and I,
You know,
we've talked about it a bazillion times. I mean, we saw Randall Cobb. I mean, he was far and away the best athlete on the field. It wasn't even close.
Tennessee didn't even offer.
No, and
That's why he jumps up to Kentucky.
that's why he goes to Kentucky, because they didn't give him a
he wanted to
chance,
play quarterback.
and they weren't going to
Well,
look
they
at
didn't let
him.
him play quarterback up there.
Well, yeah.
They did a little bit.
How do you let the best athlete maybe in the state just drift
Oh,
up
there
north?
wasn't maybe. He was the best athlete in the state.
I mean, you take that kid and you say, you try out for quarterback.
And you would have had him at that time, you would have had him at the same time as, that was Eric Berry and all that group, wasn't it? That was the tail. That was the tail end of the Fulmer era.
Might have been right before.
It was the tail end of that.
Here was Statesboro's wins that year: 19-6, 56-0, 34-7, 54-6, 46-3, 55-20, 62-0, 51-0, 49-0. They beat Thompson 28-24 in the final regular season game. Beat Woodward Academy 35-7. Beat Thomas County Central 35-3.
That's ridiculous.
Beat Rome 35-7. Beat Troop 17-0, and then beat Dalton 51-13.
Yeah. And I don't and they didn't.
That was a really good team.
Oh, they were ridiculous.
Well, and again, back in that era when we used to see Rome up here, that was the difference maker when you watched them get off the bus. That's the team that nobody was seeing in our area.
No.
It was Rome.
Well, that is an intimidating order when you're a high school age kid and you see somebody get off the bus that looked like some of those guys back in those days that you would see get off the bus. That's enough to make you go, huh?
Rome had a middle linebacker that went to Notre Dame. I won't be able to come up with his name, but he was really good. I mean, obviously. I don't know if he played on the offensive side of the ball. I don't remember that.
What was his name?
He was a middle line. Everybody wanted him. He was being but he went
with
to
the
Notre
T.
Dame.
Didn't start with the T. See, is that the one that played in our All-Star game?
I don't think he played in an All-Star game. No, I don't think he did.
Oh God, I can.
But back in that day, there were some very good players from Rome playing that All-Star game. Remember, we used to say that for Georgia to do what they can to hold off Tennessee, they need Rome kids to be playing, and there was a few years they did.
I'm gonna have to look this up because this is driving me.
He was a
nuts.
good ball player, big kid too, probably about 6'1", 230, coming out of high school.
No, not from Atlanta, Rome. Torian Smith.
Yeah.
Oh,
I knew it began
good
with a
for you.
T. I was like, there's a Y in there.
Well, other big schools. Florida was interested in him, and I think Auburn and Bama, but he went to Notre Dame. I don't know if he did anything in the pros.
I was just trying to pull up here. He graduated in 2010. He was a 4-star. But I don't. Let's see here. According to this website, he says this was 8 years ago. He was in the
Sid Fritz coached Rome back
Yeah.
then. That's a name from the past, ain't it?
Golly, I
Sid
hadn't heard that
Fritz.
in a while.
He a good guy.
said he. I think at one time he was an assistant at Rome. I don't know if he ever played.
I don't either. You would have think if going to Notre Dame at that point in time, he'd have been good enough to play, but maybe he didn't.
Yeah, but how many can't miss 4-star or 5-star prospects have we seen that got to college and then we never heard from them again?
Yeah.
Well,
it happens.
a lot of times what happens there is you get kids that in high school they're a man among boys and the game's easy. So they don't have to work hard and they don't learn to work hard. That's not a knock on anybody really but them.
Yeah.
And they get to college and they think, well, this is going to be just like high school was. Well, hey, guess what? In high school, you were you were the one of 53. And when you get to college, you are one of 53. You are not the one.
And let's use some different examples of that. If you're a 4-star, 5-star, and you're coming out of some of those perennial national programs where there's player after player, then they probably did have to work hard to get their due on that team. You think those IMG teams down there? They're not asking kids that can't play to play for them.
No.
So if you've done your job and you're the guy on that team, you've probably busted your butt to be that guy on that team. But I guess what you're saying here, if you're just high school over here, that okay, all of a sudden we got this kind of kid, but who did he have to beat out?
Yeah, I did hear on Sport Talk coming over here today that Quake had said he had gotten word from his source that there was representatives from the University of Colorado at Brainerd High School today.
I heard that same thing, but I didn't hear it all in detail. But
heard there's a pickle hawking young man over there that might be.
Well, Jackson State was apparently on his list that he narrowed to 12 a while back, and then when Dion left for Colorado, he suddenly has Colorado in his top 5, and Jackson State's no longer in the picture. So,
well, guys.
Well, I hope those Colorado coaches didn't walk in with a hoodie. They get busted in the mouth if they didn't. So.
I feel like that we are entering.
You've heard that story.
I'm familiar with the situation.
I feel like that we are entering into an era. And I think we're going to see it in football just as much as we have started to see it in basketball and other sports as well. I think we're entering into an era where I wonder, and I think NIL is going to make it worse, is how hard do these kids really think they're going to have to work? I mean, if in Tennessee, NIL is legal for a high school age kid. So that high school age kid goes to school at high school X, and he makes a few $100,000 in his 4 years in high school. Well, anybody that's remotely smart with their money can take a few $100,000 and turn that into enough money to last you for a long, long time. And so it's easy for that kid because in high school, he's a man among boys. He don't have to play as hard as he does when he gets to college. And then he gets to college and he gets the hell beat out of him, and he doesn't want to do the work, so he just stops. So, I worry that he lives off high school money.
Well, I don't know if you've seen this or heard this story, and I don't know it well enough to give names, but there was a quarterback that bailed on Miami, changed his commitment to Florida, all over NIL money, and now he's bailing on Florida.
He supposedly was.
So what's going on there?
$4 million or $14 million?
Oh, it's $14 million is what I'd heard.
From the Gator Collective, and then for some reason the Gator Collective changed their mind or something.
Well, that's a pretty high total to say, we'll give that kid $14 million.
Here, bud. Here's $4 million.
Yeah.
Here's $14 million.
I mean, I don't know, and
that can't be guaranteed money because you can't keep those sponsors from saying, the hell with that idea.
And I'll go ahead and say it on record because everybody's talking about, because the GHA is now throwing around NIL and people are talking about it and stuff like that, and people are wringing their hands and gnashing their teeth about it.
Clutching their pearls.
NIL is coming to Georgia.
NIL's coming to all 50 states, bud.
Write it down, because just like Tennessee, TSSAA, they don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
And they're going to get sued if they don't have some sort of it. So you might as well go ahead and introduce it, set ground rules, and make them with enough teeth to, try to discourage as much of the, the shady part of it as you possibly can. You're not going to be able to cover all the bases. I mean, people are going to find loopholes, but it's coming to Georgia.
Do you know what the scariest?
It's coming to Georgia. Just get used to it.
You know what the scariest part of that is, though, and this is strictly me speaking from the school administration athletic side of it. If you've got a sponsor in the area that's willing to fork out money for a kid, what's to stop them? That might be a sponsor that normally would have sponsored the program as a whole, that would have benefited the whole program.
Yeah.
Whereas now, they're going to sponsor one kid to get him there. And while it'll benefit the program to have him there, that's not the same as the program getting that $1,000 check or that $5,000 check or whatever that you were going to sponsor.
That $5,000
goes a long way. Yep.
So if we're going to give it to little Johnny over here,
recondition a set of football helmets
and shoulder pads,
and and that.
I think it's $100+ I think to recondition
per helmet.
Per helmet,
yeah.
That's right.
I mean, to me, that's the scary part of it all is, it's, I don't want to say it's the selfishness, but it's the selfishness. I mean, it is, you are, we've spent years and years and years. Stump used to talk about how that he didn't put names on the back of his jerseys because, we're a team. We're not individuals. Yeah. Well, I think we're getting into an era of we're not a team. We're a team of individuals because, especially when you get into, in the NFL, granted, there's guys on that team that make crap tons more money than everyone else. But everybody makes, league minimum now is what, like 1.5 or something stupid like that. Even minimum salaries, good money.
Yeah.
But you take a college team when you got a quarterback that's been offered $14 million and you got another kid over here on that team that makes good grades and he's got a little bit of scholarship money and he's got nobody giving him anything and he struggles to go have McDonald's on a Saturday night.
And we also talked about this too from the
that's a separation
from the transfer portal standpoint. I feel sorry for some of the people leaving high school because there's and not everybody's a 5-star, not everybody's a 4-star. But if a team can put together their roster full of transfer portals, I can see that coach saying, "I don't need to talk to you, Mr.
I don't even need to go.
That's happening.
I don't even need to go recruit.
I got 22-year-old here that's going to help me."
I've heard a bunch of recruiting people say, if your kid gets an offer from anywhere, take it.
Take it.
Because with the transfer portal, they find all of a sudden, this kid's leaving this school. We need a linebacker. I'd rather have this kid that's already 20 years old that's been in the college system for 2 years and got a college body.
And I got to win now as a coach.
Yeah,
I can't talk about 3 years from now.
And his mom and dad understand what it is to be college parents.
Yeah. Going back to what you said a minute ago, though, could you foresee a coach who's trying to foster this environment of team first, basically just telling his players, you aren't signing any deals if you're playing for me because we're not going to have it.
Then he wouldn't have a roster.
Then he ain't going to have a roster.
Yeah.
You could try. But you better be talking about. You better be talking about a George Quarles or somebody like that has a proven track record of putting teams in state championship games and winning is about the only kind of person that could pull that off. If you're not a proven winner that people respect just the mention of your name, you're not. Can you imagine sitting in front of imagine having that first parent meeting with all the parents on the team and the students and everything, and coming out with that. Now you gonna tell me that ain't gonna get heated? Oh, you gonna tell me my son got an offer from Joe's Crab Shack and he can't? That's. It worries me, man, that we're going to get into I think we're going to get in a really tricky area, and I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Because the problem is to me, when you involve money in anything, you will inevitably bring out a shadier element as well.
Yeah.
And it really worries me. Because we're still, at the end of the day, we are still talking about 14 to 18-year-old kids.
Yep. Bud Kilmer wouldn't have it.
That's right. Right there on the glass. It just... It just
on the other night, 2 o'clock in the morning, I had to finish watching.
You can't help it. It is what it is. Well, folks, that's going to do it for us tonight. We hope you enjoyed it. This was a really good conversation. I'd like to continue this. I'd like to get I'd really like to get a couple of our coach friends on here with us one day and just talk about it or maybe some of our former coach friends. Greg Payne. We might get Greg on here to talk about that because somebody that don't have to worry about being honest. They ain't got to be political correct. They can be honest. Give us about 6 months and have Robert Akins call in and talk to us.
Tell us the truth.
Yeah, because I really feel like I think this is going to be the dominating issue in several levels of sports for many years to come.
Oh, and on those same lines, GHSA has also been talking about implementing instant replay for high school championship games. Now the Georgia State legislature has got something out there that basically says you have to have the state championship.
That last call got their attention, hasn't it?
Well, it's probably a few legislators that went to that particular school and they weren't real happy about it. So
why are you only having replay when it's only going to benefit 2 teams and not all the teams? What if my team got put out on a bad call in week 10 and didn't make the playoffs?
But the amount of money it would cost to put instant replay at every GHS.
That's why you
can't.
It is a band-aid. It is a band-aid, but it's going to stop some bleeding.
Well, keep that thought. Maybe we pick that up next week, folks. We appreciate you tuning in with us today. We appreciate you listening. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Hey, listen, anybody out there that's interested in being part of the Scenic City Sports family, our contact information is always on Facebook. Reach out to us because we're always looking for sponsors to help us bring this show to you. So, guys, y'all take it easy. Have a good week, and we'll see you on the flip side.